Okay, the time being 10:04, I'm going to open the revenue estimate work session here. And what you have before you, or you should all have it, is an LSR that was put together that basically has the revenue estimates that we voted on last week. And you'll see that on page 2 and page 3. I verified that those numbers were what we agreed to, but certainly I welcome all you guys to check those numbers as well. We'll be voting on this to approve this, and then this will be assigned a House resolution number. And actually, why don't I let Chris Shea give us an update on this?
So as Representative Janigian was saying, that similar to an LSR that you might file, you sign off on that LSR and then it goes up to the clerk and the clerk assigns a number to it. Once this LSR goes up to the clerk, he will assign a House resolution number to it and then include it in the calendar for the next meeting. So you won't see it tomorrow at your session, but you'll see it on March 6th. And you'll, at that point, I think Representative Janigian and others may speak to the resolution, and then in the past, it's been tabled once it's been passed and spoken to. That's it.
Anyone have any questions about the process or this? Okay, see, yes, Representative Elmy.
I have had questions from a couple of people who probably should know better, but on when we put that on the table, it automatically goes on to the end of the budget, correct? Or is there any law about this anywhere, or it's just tradition?
No, there's no law for that. Basically, what our office does is takes what this committee agrees to for revenue estimates, and then we amend House Bill 1 under usually the finance chair's name to put the unrestricted revenues to reflect what this committee has voted on.
So
go
we're
ahead.
depending on tradition.
Well, yes, and I'm not aware that that's going to change. I mean, that would be our recommendation to the finance chair. I think Representative Weiler would agree with us because that's how he's done it in
Okay.
the past.
Yes, exactly.
In fact, he made a comment to that effect yesterday, I believe, in full finance.
Yeah. Some people I hadn't, maybe that was after a luncheon conversation I had. Thank you.
And my understanding is that if we see some major changes on the upside or downside, whatever the case may be, we can propose pulling it off the table and introducing new estimates.
Absolutely. It's at the House's desire or will.
Okay. Representative Ullery, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah. Yeah, wrong room, so I gotta get everything together.
Make a-
I would move to that the committee accept the House resolution. What number is this going to be?
We don't have.
You
a
just
number yet.
referenced the LSR number, which is 251159.
All right, 251159, as ought to pass.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Representative Elmy seconds it. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Representative Schamberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just would like somewhere in the minutes to reflect that I still believe the business taxes estimates are too high and should be only about in the $900 million range. That is my estimation, but I do support the LSR to move forward.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are voting on LSR 25-1159.0, codifying the revenue estimates of the committee. The motion ought to pass. Seconded by Representative Almy. And Representative Ulrey.
Ought to pass. Yay.
Yay. Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Clerk's vote yes. Representative Soti.
Yes.
Representative Ors.
Yes.
Representative Smith.
Yes.
Stephen Smith. Representative Tierney.
Yes.
Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Southworth.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
Yes.
Representative Bolton.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
Yes.
Representative Jeffrey Smith.
He's not here.
Absent. Representative Opal.
Aye.
Representative Spar.
Yes.
Chairman Janigian.
Yes.
Clerk counts 19-0 with one absent.
I'm gonna go close that door.
Okay, thank you. All right, the vote is 19-0. It passes. I'll close this session on revenue estimates. Is it 10? The time not being 10:15 yet, I cannot start the exec, but actually what we're going to do is we're starting the exec session around 10:15, but Chris, you have a handout for us. Well, I'll let Chris explain it, but it details information from the governor's office, the estimates we just did, and once everyone has that, he can explain in a little more detail.
Coming through a speaker.
Oh,
Want it going through a speaker.
okay. Pull the plug.
Didn't think of that. You need a second for that motion?
Probably.
Okay.
You're not allowed to make those. We'll leave it to Sue.
Can I just pass on?
So if I might just,
Yes, everyone has a handout now. Chris, if you'd wanted to.
so
explain.
it's a two-page double-sided document. The first page shows you the general fund, education trust fund combined. It's a comparison what the governor's estimates are to the House and Ways estimates, and then the last three columns would be the difference. So it's House estimate minus the governor's estimate. The second column in would be the plan number for fiscal year 25. And you'll notice that about 2/3 of the way down, you'll see in bold on the left side, changes to current law. So everything above that would be current law to current law or apples to apples comparison. Below that is the new revenue that the governor's proposing that we're aware of in House Bill 2, which is the video lottery terminals. In there, you'll see the governor's proposing they'll earn or collect $10 million in revenue in fiscal year 26 and $117 million in 27. This isn't included in the House estimates because the House has not weighed in on this issue and has not voted on it. So if the House were to vote and agree with the governor, our office would carry the revenue projections on the surplus statement. It wouldn't change your base estimates. And then the next 2 pages is just a breakout of the general fund and the education trust fund. Similar to the split paper worksheet I provided you last week. Again, following the same format with the governor's estimates, the House Ways and Means estimates, and the difference House minus governor's. Again, you'll see that it's current law compared to current law, and then at the lower half of the table, you'll see changes to current law. The VLT revenue is being split 50% to the general fund, 50% to the education trust fund. So you'll see that reflected on the first line after the changes to current law heading. And then the next three lines, the business tax splits, tobacco splits, and RET splits, the governor's proposing to change the splits between the general fund and the education trust fund for those three revenue streams to be 66% to the general fund, 34% to the education trust fund. So as you move over, you can see the adjustments that would happen. For instance, the business tax would have 84 and $87 million respectively going to the general fund instead of the education trust fund in 26 and 27. And then you would see a negative corresponding entry on the education trust fund sheet. And so that's similar work for the tobacco split and the RET split. The red is a little bit different in the sense that typically we did a 67% to 33% split. And that's why you see a negative on the general fund and then a positive on the education trust fund. Again, it's below the current law estimates. So again, if the House doesn't do this, it goes away. And then the last page is just your highway fund and your fish and game fund.
Representative Elmy.
Yeah, could I ask, I think you said that currently we're splitting education trust fund and general fund 50-50. I thought it was totally different.
50-50 for the video lottery. The
Oh.
new revenue source is
Oh.
50-50. Currently, the business tax split for the general fund education trust fund is 59-41%. So 59% of the business taxes go to the general fund and 41% go to the education trust fund. And that's all I have unless there's any questions, but I just wanted to make sure the committee had this since you'll be hearing about this probably the next few days.
Representative Opal.
Chris, what's currently the tobacco split? Is that also 59-41?
Tobacco is not an easy percentage to do. So right now we have to back out about 17% of it, which is the OTP other than tobacco products, because that all goes to the general fund. And then the balance is split 60, it's not 60-40, but it's close to 60-40. And then we add back the piece that we put the other than tobacco products back into the general fund. So it's a little bit more complex of a calculation. This would make it more clear as to how you're splitting those funds.
Follow up?
But it would reduce the education trust fund amount by, was
Yeah.
it 4.5 million?
Yes.
Each year of
Yes.
the biennium?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, Representative Ors.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for taking my question, Chris. Could you just give us those percentages again? I guess I'm not clicking yet on what's happened here.
So for the business tax currently,
VLT, business tax, tobacco, right?
so the VLT, the proposal is that 50% of that revenue go to the general fund.
Yep,
50% go to the education
Right.
trust fund.
okay. And the others?
For the business taxes, 59% goes to the general fund currently, 41% to the education trust fund.
Tobacco?
Tobacco is not an even percentage.
Okay.
That's where I was just discussing where we
Yep.
have to back out and then add something back in.
Yep, red
For
splits?
red, we do 67-33, 67%, 33%.
Okay, very good, thank you.
We all set? Representative Elmy, your light is on, but now it's off. Okay. Very good. Thank you, Chris. This is very helpful. Appreciate it. Okay, now we will start our executive session. I'll open the executive session on HB 669. and recognize Representative Ulary for a motion.
I move ITL.
Do I have a second? Representative Doucette seconds it. Would you like to speak to your motion, Representative Ulary?
Not really, but this, number one, we have a separate committee that is dealing specifically with education funding. This bill, as I read it, and as the committee read it, or well, at least most of the committee read it, would do nothing more than increase taxes and not necessarily appropriate the funds in the manner in which would best serve our constituents. And therefore, I'm moving ITL.
Any other discussion? Yes, Representative Elmy.
Yes, I do. I was struck by the fact that Dan McGuire, who is on the school funding program, and Doug Hall, who I've respected for as many years as I've known him, which is a long time, felt that it would be worthwhile keeping this. Oh shoot! This is. Sorry, I forgot to turn this off. Apologies. Felt that it was important to keep this concept, the pieces of the concept alive somewhere, rather than just ITLing them while the committee did its work. I'm not entirely sure that it's necessary to do that in order to resurrect part of this concept, but I would like to respectfully disagree and ask to retain. Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are voting the vote is ITL on House Bill 669 FN relative to the requiring all revenue raised under the statewide education property tax to be deposited into the Education Trust Fund and setting up an equalized statewide tax rate. Representative Ulary.
Aye.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Soti.
Yes.
Representative Ors.
Yes.
Representative Stephen Smith.
Yes.
Representative Tierney.
Yes.
Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy. Representative Southworth.
No.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
No.
Representative Bolton.
No.
Representative Elberger.
No.
Representative Jeffrey Smith. Absent. Representative Opel.
No.
Representative Spar.
No.
Chairman Janigian.
Yes.
I count 13 yes. That's not correct.
It's probably 12.
12 yes, thank you. And 1, 2, 3, 7 no's.
Yep.
And 1 not voting.
Okay, the vote being 12-7, the ITL motion passes. And
Will there be a minority report?
Representative Almy, is there a minority report on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Bye.
Oh. Oh. Okay, I'll close the exec session on HB 669. Okay, I'm now going to open the exec session on HB 290 and ask Representative Doucette for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move ITL on HB 290 FN.
Do I have a second? Representative Ors. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We heard testimony, reasons to and against raising the taxes. We derive a substantial amount of revenue on the cigarette tax. Although this has a component for the electronic and vape products, it's my understanding there's a piece of legislation in the other body that's going to address some of the issues that we heard in testimony relative to pirated issues and taxes being collected. So seeing that, this is part of the New Hampshire advantage, keeping taxes low and bringing those revenues in. That's why I support the ITL.
Thank you. Anybody else? I see everyone pointing to somebody else. Representative Schamberg, Southworth.
Oh, stayed on. Now I'll put mine on.
All right.
I'm
Representative
sorry,
Schamberg.
go ahead. When we heard the discussion, Representative Stringham, who had made the presentation, had listened intently to what was being said about vaping and cigarette taxes coming under the same bill. He had provided to me 2 amendments that maybe would address the amount of revenue that might be able to go into the general fund for this year. And that's the one that would, 20250468H, that would effective upon passage. And we're looking at a revenue deficit. And he was hoping that this committee would at least take a look at that and say, okay, we have not had an increase since 2013, $1.78. We have not kept up with inflation. It would still be the lowest tax on cigarettes in the surrounding states. The other amendment that he was proposing was don't pass the immediate passage, but pass the second amendment that would deal with if Maine passes theirs, which would be in the $3 range, that the state of New Hampshire would then have a bill here that could address raising their rate to $2.78, which is going to put more revenue into the general fund. I feel that we should at least try to address this. It's not going to affect Massachusetts at $3.41, I think, on cigarette tax right now. And even at $2.78, they're still going to come across the border. And we're going to at least put more revenue into our general fund. So just wanted to let you know that that's out there. That thought process was out there.
Thank you. Representative Spar.
Thank you. I thought it was 2009, but maybe it was 2013 when it was raised to $1.78. And I am concerned because of inflation that, the $1.78 then is certainly not worth that today. It's probably 60 cents. So yes, it has gone down, but we do need to, I think, keep it up with inflation because it's eroding, overall our budget. And I am concerned about the fact that if I understand that the governor is planning on taking from the rainy day fund because of the deficit this year. And if her deficit is her deficit and our deficit is our deficit, it's going to be substantially more, which is going to be taken from the rainy day fund. And I think this helps to stem it by raising this fee to at least keep with inflation.
Yes, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just want to say that I was not here in body last week, but I watched every second of the meetings last week. It was fascinating to watch it and not be able to participate. I would have preferred to be here. I would like to just comment on Representative Doucette's statement about the New Hampshire advantage with low taxes. And as I mentioned before, a couple of weeks ago, state taxes may be lower, but the property taxes that our constituents are concerned about have been brought to the attention not only of the Democrats here, but I'm sure that some of you as Republicans are also hearing the concerns about high property taxes. We are not providing a New Hampshire advantage to our local property taxes by continuing to cut or not increase revenue that comes in on the state level. So I will oppose this ITL.
Representative Doucette.
Yeah, just to respond briefly, we've all heard that messaging. The problem with this particular tax is the clients, the customer base is doing this. And a lot of effort, myself included, I quit smoking. So we have revenue doing this right now. If we jack a tax on this at $1 a pack, we're going to lose what revenue we have in this state. I know I made a promise when I ran for office that I would not approve or support any new taxes, and I stand by that. The local property tax rate is dictated at the local level. That should be addressed at the local level.
Representative Elmy.
Thank you. I don't want to get into a conversation about the difficulty of towns and addressing state problems, but I do want to suggest that we consider on Representative Stringham's second idea, which is to pass something now, which could become automatic if.
Representative Elmy, we're talking about an ITL motion right now.
Yes, I know. We're talking about ITLing it instead of considering the effectiveness of being able to add to that tax if Maine decides to become to increase its taxes as it's been talking about, but not otherwise. Inflation has taken away a huge part of the effectiveness of this for stopping people smoking, which is one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is that we're losing revenue because of the inflation that's been going on for quite some time now. And this is one place that it addresses two problems, one of which is our revenues and the other of which is on the health of our citizens. So,
Representative Spar.
With respect to Representative Doucette, most of our tax revenue comes from sources that are a percentage, and if your pledge is no new taxes, then those other ones should not be a percentage. They should be a flat fee. So we're just trying to keep this up with inflation at a minimum, and I think that makes a lot of sense because it's basically can continue to de-escalate or at least decline, and I don't think that's healthy from a revenue perspective.
I mean, to me, Representative Doucette's point about how less and less people are smoking, it's interesting. A higher tax could trigger several people, many people to say, you know what, I'm done. I'll quit. That would be part of my concern. Representative Ullery?
And that was my concern, speaking to the percentage. When you increase the percentage on a declining population, then you're also decreasing the amount of revenue that is being generated.
Representative Opal, did you?
I would just like, and I don't think there's any way to predict how many people will stop smoking or cease smoking and how much that dollar, an extra pack, will offset that. It could be actually more even with a decrease of people. So that's not easy to predict, and I don't think there's any way we can. But I would still think it's a worthy goal to at least keep it with where it was at $1.78 back in 2009, which would be substantially more than what it is.
Representative Opal?
Well, like Representative Doucette, I'm a former smoker, and I'm assuming my colleague is glad that he made that decision, as I think most people should, maybe all people should. 2 points, though. One specific to the revenue argument, which is that we have an estimate on the fiscal note saying that this will generate $87.5 million, if I'm reading the table correctly, in each year of the biennium, I believe. So at least through the next 2 years, next 2 fiscal years, there should be an increase. Concurrently with that, though, and I know it's not necessarily the purview of this committee, it's more appropriate in finance, but any decline in smoking is going to have a similar decline in the cost of health care for those individuals. And, you know, I think that's just, you know, that's gonna have an impact on the state's budget as well, on the expenditure side. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, one more, Representative Doucette.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor it, and I appreciate it, but as an ex-smoker, to me, adding $1 per pack would kill the market, kill our advantage, and kill the revenue we see. Simple economics. If I smoke and choose to continue to smoke, is it worth me spending $8 in gas to come up to New Hampshire to buy my carton of cigarettes? I'll stay in Massachusetts, or I'll stay in Vermont or Maine or whatever. So, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The motion on the floor is ITL on House Bill 290 FN, an act increasing the taxes on cigarettes and electronic cigarettes and establishing a committee to study taxes on tobacco and other nicotine products. Representative Ulrey.
Aye.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Sodi.
Yes.
Representative Ors.
Yes.
Representative Stephen Smith.
Yes.
Representative Tierney.
Yes.
Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
No.
Representative Southworth.
No.
Representative Malloy.
No.
Representative Schomburg.
No.
Representative Bolton.
No.
Representative Elberger.
No.
Representative Jeffrey Smith. Out. Representative Opal.
No.
Representative Spar.
No.
Chairman Janigian.
Yes.
By a vote of 11 to 9? 11 to
Should
8.
be 8.
11 to 8. One absent.
Okay, the vote being 11 to 8, the ITL motion passes. And I'm closing the exec session.
Reports?
There will be a minority report.
Okay.
I think we need to discuss who should write it.
Motion, microphone.
There will be a minority report, probably ought to pass as amended. And we need to discuss it later.
Okay, let me know. Okay, next I'm going to open the exec session on HB 402 and recognize Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm moving to inexpediently litigate or legislate this particular HB 402 because only each family can make a determination of whether or not the EFA is taxable to them or not based on their individual tax situation, not the state of New Hampshire through broad legislation such as this. The issue hasn't been a problem.
I'm
yet.
sorry,
sorry.
Representative Murphy, I didn't get a second
I'm
yet.
sorry.
Do I have a second on this? Representative Sodi seconds it. You may
Okay, so
continue.
sorry. So only an individual family can determine whether or not an EFA is taxable to them or not based on their individual tax situation, not the state, through broad legislation of this, and that's usually in consultation with a tax professional. this issue hasn't been a problem yet because EFAs currently restrict the program to low-income families who typically, file very basic tax returns where they're not itemizing, or in some cases don't pay any taxes at all. I'm concerned that the bill, as it currently is written, might result in unintended consequences, and so I feel it's inexpedient to legislate. Thank you.
Representative Elmy.
Thank you. I sent you, but I didn't get anything back, on a proposal to amend this and to amend it in a way that would inform the people that have EFA that they are immune from New Hampshire taxes, but may be subject to federal taxation. I think that cures the whole bill. It would replace the sentence that we all agree is misleading, but it would allow the state to avoid any liability from telling people that they are immune from all taxes, which is what we do now. And it would be an extremely simple fix. So I would just like to put that out into the conversation since we haven't had a conversation together yet. So
Thank you. Any other comments? Representative Southworth.
Just briefly, I did have a chance, and I sent it to some, to get the handbook for the EFAs. And if you haven't seen it, it's really interesting. It's very detailed, very well organized handbook, but it has a clear list, especially for homeschoolers, what they can and cannot use their wallet money for. And that list does not match up with a list of what is taxable. So it's pretty easy if you put up the two lists to see that there are things on their list that you can definitely get with your EFA homeschool money that are definitely taxable. So I do think, looking to the future, it would be possible or preferable to look into this a little bit longer. And one thing that's been reported, you cannot use EFAs for theme parks. So I've seen that in the news and heard it. It is not true. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Representative Elberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would like to point out that Representative Murphy's statement about all of the recipients of EFAs are low income, given the current cap of $135,000 or so per year for a family of four. I have not heard that ever referred to as a family with low income. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no one else with a comment, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on HB 402.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The motion is ITL on House Bill 402, an act relative to liability as taxable income on education freedom account payments. Representative Ulrey.
Aye.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Sodi.
Yes.
Representative Ors.
Yes.
Representative Stephen Smith.
Yes.
Representative Tierney.
Yes.
Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
no.
Representative Southworth.
No.
Representative Malloy.
No.
Representative Schomburg.
No.
Representative Bolton.
No.
Representative Elberger.
No.
Representative Smith is absent. Representative Opal.
No.
Representative Spar.
No.
Chairman Janinian.
Yes.
Thank you. By vote of 11 to 8. Correction. 11 to
The vote being 11 to 8, the ITL motion passes, and I'm going to close the exec session on HB 402. Representative Elmy, is there? a minority
Yes, there will be a minority report on, I'll probably write it, but we can discuss it afterwards.
report? Okay, let me
And
know.
it will be ought to pass as amended with the language that I just provided.
Okay, I'm going to open the executive session on HB 483 and recognize Representative Tierney for a motion.
ITL for this bill.
Do I have a second? Representative Soti seconds it. Would you like to speak to your motion, Representative Tierney?
This is a very short bill. The main part of this one is that the scholarship organization that handles the EFA accounts is to be incorporated in this state. It is not incorporated in this state, it's incorporated in the state of New York. And by saying it has to be done here, I believe we would be in violation of the U.S. Constitutional Commerce Clause. And that's why I made the motion.
Representative Almy.
Thank you. I passed out to everybody something that is rather difficult to read. It is from the 990 for the New York State on what do they call it? On family children's scholarship fund. That's it. On the only piece of it that I could find at any rate that has anything to do with our program is 4B. And 4B says that they are administering here. Program Management and Administration of New Hampshire Education Freedom Account Program. The program provides students who are not enrolled full-time in a New Hampshire public school and whose family earns 350% of the poverty line or below with a state grant to spend on eligible education-related expenses. CFSF, the New York group, administers the funding provided from the state of New Hampshire to each account. Program staff verifies eligibility through the application process, reviews and approves payment of eligible expenses, and approves educational providers. In addition, program staff provide outreach and support to New Hampshire families to inform them about the EFA program. And then it says that during fiscal year 24, CSF received $23.5 million from the state of New Hampshire to fund over 4,900 EFAs. That sounds like a contract rather than that we are it sounds like the EFA program isn't part of an incorporation anywhere. And I would like us to look a little further into this instead of saying that that the legal situation is correct. So I would not want to kill this bill. I would like to retain it.
Representative Opal.
Based on what I was reading about the governor's budget presentation, I thought this piece of legislation was in keeping with her desire to try and target out-of-state contractors. And so it seemed like this might be in keeping with that initiative, but.
Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The motion is ITL on House Bill 483FN relative to the definition of a scholarship organization for purposes of the education tax credit. Representative Ulrey.
Yes.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Soti.
Yes.
Representative Ors.
Yes.
Representative Stephen Smith.
Yes.
Representative Tierney.
Yes.
Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
No.
Representative Southworth.
No.
Representative Malloy.
No.
Representative Schomburg,
No.
Representative Bolton,
No.
Representative Elberger,
No.
Representative Smith is absent. Jeffrey Schmidt, Representative Opal,
No.
Representative Spar.
No.
Mr. Chairman, by a vote of 11
You
to
haven't
8.
called on me yet. I know you're trying to avoid the pronunciation.
Almost got through. Representative Janikian.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. By a vote of 11 to 8, one absent. ITL.
The vote being 11 to 8, the ITL motion passes, and I'm going to close the exec session on HB 483. Will there be a minority report? Microphone, please.
There will be a minority report. We'll figure out who's going to do it. Thank you.
Okay. Representative Bueller.
Yeah, what would the motion?
Motion would be retain. Motion would be retain. I'm not sure if we're allowed to say retain, in which case we would have to say ought to pass with amendment or something like that.
Okay, we'll look into that, unless Representative Smith knows the answer.
Yeah, retain as a committee function, not a committee report, so that's not
Okay.
appropriate.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense. All right, I'm going to open the executive session on HB 503 and recognize Representative Ors for motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make the motion to ITL this legislation, HB 503 FN.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Representative Doucette seconds it. Would you like to speak to your motion, Representative Ors?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would. So this legislation amends how tax revenues are allocated to both the general trust fund and the education trust fund. And it increases many taxes and tax rates, business profits tax, business enterprise tax, meals and rooms, and reestablishes the I&D tax. What's amazing to me also is that the other party ran on a position of no new taxes. I would quote Joyce Craig many times, but in the interest of time, I will not. However, it's obvious that somebody didn't get the message, because all we have here are many tax increases versus what was actually pledged. All these new taxes, the intent is, on some of these, of course, is also to reduce the funds, the revenues to the general fund, which again is surprising to me when I've heard a lot of angst about there's not going to be enough money for the general fund, which I personally believe we are going to be just fine. So therefore, I am, again, I am recommending ITL on this legislation.
Thank you. And I think Representative Schamberg has something to say.
Could you tell that by the way I was pushing the button before he finished? Thank you.
You were very anxious there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 503 would redirect over $700 million back to the state coffers by 2027, as stated by the State Director of National Federation of Independent Business. And it comes back to the state because of the tax cuts that have been going on since 2015. It's a bill designed to go raise the present tax rates back to their original number, like the BPT from 7.5 that it's at now to 8.5, the 0.5 on BET to 0.75, the meals and rooms from 8.5 to 9, and the newly named recommendation that the DRA told me to change the interest and dividends to something else, so I changed it to market distribution revenue, all 5% of that. The additional percentage that would be added on would strictly go back into the education trust fund. And I feel that it would help address some of the issues that we've had about funding and property tax relief. Our present public policy on funding public education and property tax relief, I think, exacerbates what is going on. By doing this, I think we mitigate a crisis. So I feel that this is something that would help address our budget. And my colleague down here to the right, it does not reduce the general fund of presently what is going to come into it. All the percentage increases put the money into the education trust fund. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I can't, I know how my constituents would react to all these tax increases. How do you feel like your constituents would react to knowing that there's so many tax increases on the table when people are struggling right now?
People are, these taxes, other than the meals and rooms, these taxes are not affecting the everyday homeowner or property owner. These would help bring their property taxes down. I don't have many constituents that own the big businesses that are missing out paying on this, paying into supporting the market, supporting our infrastructure. I do not believe that the folks of Wilmette and Sutton would say you're raising it on a multinational business by 1%, and it's going to go into the education trust fund, which then is going to be able to use for funding for public education and reduce my property taxes. I don't see that coming across from my constituents.
Well, the thing that would concern me, I have a lot of, in Salem, and I'm sure in Wilmot too, there's a lot of small businesses who have LLCs who would be subject to these taxes as well. Representative Orrs.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Having anticipated my esteemed colleagues' remarks, I saved the best for last, in that we have seen repeatedly over the years, as we have cut the BPT tax, the BET tax, et cetera, that our revenues have gone up so much so that in the case of Educational Trust Fund, those monies going in increased from 25% of that fund to 39%, which we have seen in the presentations that were provided to us earlier in the year. And therefore, I totally disagree that we would increase the general fund with new taxes. This money is not going to flow in. This money is going to be walking away. Again, as we've cut the tax, we've increased the revenue. And just like the tobacco taxes and so on that are outrageously high as presented, I mean, this whole idea is going up in smoke. Thank you.
Representative Schamberg.
Hopefully I've got the best one at the end
Can
here.
I speak too?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm not done yet.
There is no proven theory that when you cut the tax rate, that revenues increase. That has been demonstrated by the budget that comes out of Washington, D.C. It seems when you cut revenue, deficits increase. When you have a proper tax system set up, revenues come in and you have to, you will have less deficit because you don't have to borrow as much money.
Representative Almy.
Thank you. I believe that the representative has many good and important things to say in this bill, but these taxes have been around for a long time. They should not be going back in the same way that they were there before. If the legislature lived up to the fact that we need the same amount of revenue adjusted for inflation that we had back 10 years ago when the taxes started to be cut. this is a long-term project. It's not something that, obviously, that could happen today. And the idea that it would all go to the Education Trust Fund when the general fund does enormous work needed to keep this state together and to keep families together and to keep people healthy, is difficult. So I will be voting no on this, and see how everyone else goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Ors?
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. So once again, my esteemed colleague to my left mentioned how when we cut taxes in Washington, D.C., the things don't go the way they seem they should go. Well, there's a good reason for that. Two things. One, we're not talking about Washington, D.C. We're talking about facts provided by the state of New Hampshire for New Hampshire. And as the tax revenues, the tax rates have been cut, the revenues increase. The other thing I like to say is the reason we don't see cost expenditures going down in Washington, D.C. is because of all the waste, fraud, and abuse that DOGE has uncovered, like millions of dollars going for condoms and stuff like that for the terrorists. So it's a pretty easy to understand. Thank you.
Representative Elmy?
Thank you. We have a very strong narrative now on that has been backed up with facts that shows that when we increased the revenues, when we decreased the revenues was after when we got the stimulus money. That is, various different kinds of stimulus money. The first one was Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. The time before that was just New Hampshire catching up with every other state, because it takes us longer than it takes any other state to get to where our revenues are where they were before the Great Recession. That was the burst we had in 16. I'm not going to go on further about that, but in each case, we cut the taxes just about the same time that the revenue was being formed already that went into our taxes the year or two after. That's the way our tax system works. So what would happen if we did a bad tax reform? What would happen if we did a good tax reform is something that we may discover someday, but we will find, it has nothing to do with whether the idea itself is important for the state of New Hampshire or not. Thank you.
I just want to take one more because I think we can see where this is headed. Representative Elberger had her hand up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm not sure that the conversation has really changed anyone's mind, to be fair. I will point out three things. One is that, to the best of my knowledge, property taxes have gone up somewhere in the 35 to 38% rate in the statewide over the last few years. Whatever property decreases have happened on the state level, property taxes have gone up. The response of, well, that's the local decision-making and people should just want less in their communities. Well, education, firefighters, police officers, getting our roads plowed in the winter, this year particularly, all of those things come out of local property taxes. The addition of the costs being downshifted has been really damaging. So that's number one. Number two, and I may have mentioned this before, my husband and I like going out to diners, and we particularly enjoy Susie's in Hudson, which is in Representative Ullery's district. I was talking to a waitress there and asking her if the meals tax were to drop, how she would feel about that. She said she'd like that because sometimes she goes out to eat. I said, if you had to choose between the meal tax going down and your property taxes going down, which would you prefer? No question in her mind, she would rather have her property taxes down. And lastly, one of the things that I've learned is that saying that we are going to continue to do things just because this is the way we've always done them is a really bad basis for decision-making. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The motion is ITL on House Bill 503 FN, an act amending how revenues from taxes are allocated to the Education Trust Fund. Representative Ulrey.
Yes.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Soti.
Yes.
Representative Ors.
Yes.
Representative Stephen Smith.
Yes.
Representative Tierney.
Yes.
Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Southworth.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
No.
Representative Bolton.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
No.
Representative Jeffrey Smith is absent. Representative Opal.
No.
Representative Spar. Yes. Representative Janigian.
Yes.
Almost.
Clerk counts 16 yeas and 3 nays.
Okay, the vote being 16-3, the ITL motion passes, and I'll close the exec session on HB 503. Did you have a comment, Representative Schamberg?
There will be a minority
Okay.
report.
And it will be you?
Yes, it will
Okay.
be.
So we have one minority report determined.
What will the report be?
Okay. I'm now going to open the exec session on HB 531 and recognize Representative Doucette.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move ITL on HB 531 FN.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Representative Almy. And would you like to speak to your motion, Representative Doucette?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And for the sake of brevity, I think this is one of the many issues that the newly formed, hopefully, Game Commission can address in that nest of issues they need to address.
Sounds good. Any other comments, thoughts? Seeing none? Representative
I agree.
Southworth? You agree? Okay. Thank you. Seeing no more, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The motion is ITL on House Bill 531 FN, setting the annual limits on the amount of charitable gaming revenue which may be distributed to one charitable organization. Representative Ulrey.
Yes.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Soti.
Yes.
Representative Ors.
Yes.
Representative Stephen Smith.
Yes.
Representative Tierney.
Yes.
Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Southworth.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
Yes.
Representative Bolton.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
Yes.
Representative Jeffrey Smith is absent. Representative Opel.
Aye.
Representative Spar.
Yes.
Representative Janigian.
Yes.
19-1.
19-0.
1 absent.
Right. Okay, the vote being 19-0, the ITL motion passes. And is there any objection to, oh, it's an FN. So I don't believe this can go on consent. Okay, I'm going to close the exec session on HB 531. next, I'm going to go slightly out of order here. I'm going to open the exec session on HB 588. And look to Representative Doucette for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move ITL on HB 588 FN.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Representative Almy seconds it. I saw the hand reaching for the light. Would you like to speak to your motion, Representative Doucette?
Yes, again, briefly, I think this is an issue that can be brought up at the Gaming Commission, along with a plethora of others.
True enough. Anybody else? Okay, good. Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on HB 588.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The motion is ITL on HB 588 FN, an act relative to the distribution of revenues generated from historic horse racing parimutuel pools. Representative Ullery.
Yes.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Representative Soti.
Yes.
Representative Ors.
Yes.
Representative Stephen Smith.
Yes.
Representative Tierney.
Yes.
Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Southworth.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
Yes.
Representative Bolton.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
Yes.
Representative Jeffrey Smith is not present. Representative Opel.
Aye.
Representative Spar.
Yes.
Representative Janigian.
Yes.
Clerk counts 19-0 with one absent.
Okay, the vote being 19-0, the ITL motion passes, and this will not go on consent either because it is has a financial impact. Close the exec session on HB 588.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
did you say you can't put it on consent?
Yes. Is that
Why?
not true? My understanding is whenever there's a 588 FN.
You can't pass bills with fiscal allocations and put them on consent. Didn't we just ITL this one?
Oh, I see. If it's ITL, it can go on consent.
Right, so there's no allocation coming out from the
Okay.
committee. You are permitted to put it on consent if you
Okay.
wish.
Then in that case, HB 588 and HB 531 can go on consent. No, those, unless you all want to change your votes.
Okay. I've got one more. We got 483.
No, 540.
540.
Right. Did we have a vote on this one?
We haven't done 540 yet.
Yeah.
We did 483.
You just said you were taking
540,
it
you
out
were
of order.
taking them out of order.
483 is already done. That's 11, it was 11 to 8.
Okay. Need to take a break.
483? Where's that?
No, we already
Oh, it's 483, the Tierney, yeah.
All right, so you're gonna. All right, I'm gonna open the exec session on HB 540. And recognize Representative Doucette.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move ITL on HB 540.
Do I have a second? Representative Murphy seconds it. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Again, if the commission chooses to do so, this is an issue that can be brought up with that commission. Personally, I think it singles out a specific entity for an exorbitant tax, which can, it talks about 1,000 machines, they can put in 999 machines. This is something that although I may or may not agree with the spirit of this, I think it's something that should be addressed at the upcoming commission.
Thank you. Other thoughts, comments? Representative Ors, did you, why, your light is on. I don't know if that's by accident. Representative Elberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I find myself in agreement with Representative Doucette here and hoping that when the commission takes a look at it, they can look at graduated levels of machines, you know, this range and this range and this range. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Almy.
Thank you. That's about where I am. This is rather more money, I think, for than we should be asking for from a large casino. But we do have large casinos now instead of one large casino that we were fighting about and everybody objected to first. And they are getting away with a lot more money than is available on the southern side of our border, for instance. So I'm voting ITL also, but I just wanted to say that.
Representative Opal.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question, honestly. Representative Doucette, I think correctly, has identified a myriad of questions that hopefully the newly formed, when it gets approved, will address. But I'm wondering if the House or this legislature has the ability to provide any guidance to that commission in terms of questions that we would like to see addressed.
Well, go ahead, Representative Doucette.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would suggest that the only voting members are members of the House and the Senate, and anybody and everybody can come testify, bring their information in front of that commission, which we had a lot of interaction, finding some of these very issues in the last commission.
Yeah, Representative Doucette and I were both on that, on the last biennium's commission, and there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed, and people can come and testify at those times. Anybody else? Representative, are you ready to vote? Is that what you're? Okay.
Well, I'm ready to speak.
Did you have a comment on this? Okay. All right. Seeing none, I'll ask the substitute clerk to call the roll, who is actually the clerk at this moment.
That means I can push the button, right?
Okay.
The bill, oh, yes, I have. The bill is HB 540, relative to historic horse racing in large facilities. The motion is inexpedient to legislate, and I vote yes. Yeah, I gotta do that too. Isn't that fun?
Oh, do you have, no, he's going to.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Representative Ohm is absent. Representative Sodi.
Yes.
Representative Ayers.
Yes,
Ors, excuse me.
thank you.
Representative Stephen Smith.
Yes.
Representative Tierney.
Yes.
Excuse me. Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Southworth.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schamberg.
No.
Representative Bolton.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
Yes.
She's right. Susie's a good place. Representative Jeffrey Smith is absent. Representative Opal.
Aye.
And Representative Spar.
Yes.
And Chairman Janigian.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
You missed this one. Stephen Smith.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. 17 to 1 to 2. 2 absent.
The vote being 17 to 1, is, ITL passes. Is there any objection to consent? Seeing none, we'll put this on consent. And I'll close the exec session for HB 540. Okay, that finishes our business for today. There's a scheduled meeting for Friday. Obviously, I'll announce now that that will be canceled. There's no need to come back on Friday. I know many of you are disappointed. And
Extra $50.
next week, there's no House session, as you all should know. And I also am not scheduling any meetings next week as well. So the next meeting will probably be Monday, whatever the first Monday in March, Monday and Tuesday potentially in March will be, and that'll be out in not this current calendar, probably the next calendar. Question?
Not Wednesday.
No, I don't think we need to meet. We're, after today, we basically, if my count is correct, we only have 8 bills left after this. So with 8 bills left, all our early bills are done. And we have till March 20th to get the last 8 bills out. Our revenue estimates are done. So we're in good shape. So two meetings the first week in March at the most at this point. Yes, Representative Opal.
Is it the chair's intent to maintain that just for planning purposes? Will we be planning on Monday, Tuesday, the rest of the month through the 20? It's the 20th.
Probably. Now, we may not need every Monday and Tuesday. And if we only need one day, I may try to default to Tuesdays because I know a lot of people try to make appointments, as do I, on Mondays and Fridays. So, yes, it'll be Monday and or Tuesday, but probably Tuesday if only one day.
But first week of March, Monday and Tuesday.
Unfortunately, I don't know right now. I'll probably know in the next 3 or 4 days. Okay, anybody else? Seeing none. Thank you, everyone. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Do you want your?
I'm not sure where to put it. I've got an announcement for the Democrats. We're going to have a conclave now, and I just tried to ask for a room. I don't know what we'll get, so maybe we can just stay here.
That's fine.
Yeah,
We're
okay.
done. Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
It's kind of.
If I rush, I can get down to 2.